And please welcome the President of FedEx Express Canada and IWF Canada member, Lisson.
Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Isn't it nice to see we've got some men out here supporting us? Thank you, men, for coming. Thank you. You know, I'm a firm believer in surrounding ourselves with people, places, and things that inspire us because it helps to lift us up, it helps us to learn, and it helps us to grow. And I'm beyond thrilled to be here today learning from so many inspiring women at this fantastic conference in my hometown of Toronto, Canada. FedEx is an extremely proud sponsor of IWF, and we have been a sponsor for many, many years. And I am very grateful to FedEx for not only allowing me to be the first Canadian president of FedEx Canada, but also, thank you, but also allowing me to be the first female that has ever run a division of FedEx around the world. Thank you very much. But you know what makes FedEx so special? They gave me this opportunity almost 1 year to the day that my husband died, leaving me with 4 children, 10 and under. And I can't tell you how many companies would give a widow, very young, 1 year in, this top job. And for that, I'm very grateful to FedEx because they understand and get how important it is for businesses, like many businesses here today, to support, empower women, because it's not only the right thing to do, but statistics have proven having more women in the boardroom, in C-suites, boost companies' economic performance. So on behalf of FedEx and our global leadership, it gives me great pleasure to bring this stage the 2019 IWF Ideas Remaking the World. Each year, IWF members from across the globe submit their cutting-edge ideas and inventions for building a better world. From the submissions, 3 are chosen to present their big ideas on the main stage at the World Leadership Conference. This year's vigorous selection process saw 63 IWF members compete from 9 countries. We are extremely proud to have these members join us on stage today and tomorrow. Their projects have already seen immense success in their communities in the areas of law, media, and finance. We are eager to see how they apply them to change society for the better. For me, it's one of the best parts of the conference. The ideas are always inspiring. And as you saw in this morning's presentation, you can see how successful this project has been. Happy conference, everyone, and enjoy. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome IWF Board Member Director and member of the Massachusetts Women's Forum, Priscilla Douglas.
Good morning, everyone. It's my pleasure to be the moderator of this part of the conference. It's inspiring, and you've heard it's already that it's going to be the best. The world needs fresh ideas. Don't you agree? Ideas that will change lives, expand our minds, and strengthen our communities. And you, the women in this audience, are generating those ideas. You heard this morning from Deborah, your influencers, instigators, disruptors, and you're putting those ideas into action. And so, for the fourth consecutive year, we put out a call, and you, the amazing and accomplished women of the IWF, have answered that call. And you've shared your great ideas, and you're putting them into action. As Lisa said, the response has been terrific. The subjects ranged from child marriage to climate change, from human rights to health care, and from leadership to literacy. The submissions were powerful and profound. So, congratulations to all of you, and a special thanks to the women who submitted, were among the 63 who made submissions. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You are making a change. You're changing the world. It was my pleasure to chair the selection committee again this year. And let me tell you, we have a lot of fun. And I want to thank my fellow committee members, Christiane Bergevin from IWF Canada, Sylvia Carbonell from IWF Argentina, Marilyn Hubbard from IWF Detroit, Michigan, and Annika Julila Vertigans from IWF Finland. Please stand up. And now let's get started. Please welcome a member of IWF Washington. And you're going to see her, yay, on screen. We're going to see a video of our Seattle Chief of Police, Carmen Best. morning. Thank you. Well, good morning, everybody. I'm Carmen Best. I'm
the police chief in the Seattle Police Department in Seattle, Washington. And I just cannot tell you how excited I am to be here and to look out among all you amazing and incredible women who have done so much. The intelligence, the energy, it's really incredible. And I would be remiss if I didn't thank that is our Seattle, Washington, and Washington forum members who are here today. So thank you. I think I saw you all over here. Thank you. I love you. Thank you for all of your support. You don't know how much I appreciate it. So that video you just saw a few minutes ago really represents how policing has changed over the last several decades. You know, it's not all car chases and gunfights anymore. I mean, we started the video with the lip sync, for crying out loud. And we got $50,000, by the way, for that lip sync video. So it was a pretty cool deal. But, you know, it's really changed over the decades. And it's not like you see on Law and Order, of course, where they have the crime, the prosecution, the defense, the sentencing, and everything's wrapped up in an hour and it's all good to go. It's not like that. Well, I think you all know that. Recently, we resolved a murder case that was 52 years old. So we know that we can stay out. Yeah, it's great. It's a great accomplishment. So we know that we can stay after these things for quite some time and that it's really important that we do. So policing has changed a lot. This next slide that you see right now really shows our overarching goal in the Seattle Police Department and really what can translate to departments all across the world. It really is about engaging and developing and working with communities, making sure that we build trust and legitimacy with the communities that we serve so that they know that we are there to provide a service to them. And that really has to be the crux and the core of how agencies move forward. There's really 4 areas that I believe are most important to making sure that we are doing what we need to do to provide the service that we're supposed to give. The first is going to be about relationships. And the second, of course, is about service. You know, also we have to make sure we're, abiding by the laws. And then the last, and really the most critical piece, is community. When it comes to relationships, I often say, and I mean this, everything is about relationships. Part of the reason I even am able to get to this job where I am, and I think we heard it from our FedEx president earlier, it's about building relationships and helping one another. Relationships in every aspect of the community, from the youngest to the oldest and everyone in between. That is how we build our core trust and legitimacy. And it's also about service. And I always say this, policing is about service more than anything else. It really is, like I said, not about the car chases and the gunfights, although that does happen on occasion. We do have to deal with that, but it really is about service. Officers are on the front lines providing service to people in their most vulnerable moments. And that goes whether the person is a victim of a crime or the witness to a crime, and sometimes even the perpetrator of a crime. They're all in a vulnerable moment often at those times, and what we're doing is coming in and providing service when it's needed, and in a way that many others can't do because we're often there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, the most visible arm, if you will, of government, and we really need to be thinking about how we're going to serve the community. So I often say that it is really about service. That being said, it is also about upholding the law, right? Making sure that, in a society that we just can't run with chaos, that there are some rules and regulations that as a community we agree need to be followed and abided by, and some arm of accountability to help us have that. So we don't want to forget that it is also about making sure that, their laws and rules are upheld, whatever the society agrees upon. And then last but not least, and you're going to hear this concurrent theme throughout my 15-minute presentation, it really is about community. Developing relationships with community so that they know that we are a part of the community and not apart from the community. It's not them over there. It's all of us working collaboratively to make sure that we're engaged in community. And all those 4 arms coming together in what I would call holistic policing. Policing that involves relationships, service, law, and community. It reminds me of when I was much much younger, I used to run track. And one of the things that our coach had us do, I mean, I used to run the 400s, like one lap, 400 meters, one lap around. That was the race I ran. And he would have us running stairs and hopping stairs and doing all sorts of other weird things. And I was like, I just want to get on the field and run. Why does he keep having us do all these other things? But what he was doing was he was building us in other ways so that when it was time to get on the field and actually do what we needed to do, that all the components that needed to come together to make us successful were coming together. Same concept as with holistic policing. All the things that we need to do need to come together to make us the organization and the agency that we need to be to support community. Everything starts with engagement. That's what it has to be. And holistic policing starts with engagement. So I've been the police chief in Seattle officially for just over a year, about 15 months. And one of the first things I did was create a collaborative policing bureau. And in our organization, like in most organizations, there's different sections. So there's a section that does, criminal investigations. And there's a section that will work on, traffic. And there's a section that will work on training. But we really didn't have a section that worked specifically on making sure that we were engaged with community. And I wanted to make sure, even though I think everybody's responsibility is to connect with community members, every interaction that we have every day is an opportunity to build a relationship and to move us forward, we really needed to be intentional and deliberate about making sure that we created opportunities for people to engage with officers in a way that was going to build community trust and to build the legitimacy that we need, particularly in what many would say are pretty polarizing times. So we really needed to make sure that we were doing that in a very deliberate and intentional manner. So that's why I created that bureau right from the beginning, day one, to make sure that we were able to develop those relationships with folks. And then part of that bureau's work has been to make sure that we look at everything through a race and social justice lens, that we make sure that whatever we're doing, however we're engaging, developing programming, and reaching out to the community, that we do so in a way that doesn't have unintended consequences that are negative for any area of our society. We wanted to make sure that we did that. And we also worked with what we call demographic advisory councils. Again, this can be done anywhere in the world. These are areas where we look at ethnic groups and different groups that come to our area and make sure that we're engaged with them, and not only that, that we're listening to them so that we have a cultural exchange. So, for example, we have a East African, African American, Arab, Sikh, Muslim, LGBTQ, Southeast Asian, Korean, and many more demographic advisory councils that we're engaging with, because we want to make sure that the service that we provide, that everybody understands and knows what it is, but also on the other end, that we understand and know what we're doing. So there's times that, we will go to a call and we will recognize that maybe we don't need to be inside, so this is a culture where they don't wear shoes in the house. So if we can avoid going in the house with shoes on, we will. It's a small thing, but it's cultural and it matters, right? It matters how we engage and that we respect everyone that we're dealing with and that we're addressing. And then we also make sure that we have the right training. And we've had a whole host of training, race, the power of illusion, policing and profiling. We work with our African American Museum. But one of the ones that I really like that we helped develop was working with the Anti-Defamation League. And it was lessons learned from the Holocaust. Something that has nothing to do right now, maybe you would think, with how we're policing today in society. But in fact, it does, because we learned lessons from how the police department, the police there, were co-opted to work with the Third Reich to make sure that there was, essentially a genocide. And it was sort of a slow roll. And we teach that to officers because we want them to learn lessons from history so that we're not repeating the same mistakes. It's really important that we do that. All of this folds into our collaborative policing engagement and our holistic policing that we're doing today. Holistic policing, really at its core, is making sure that officers are well trained, that they're capable, that they have the equipment that they need to do the work that we're asking them to do every single day. And the world is changing. And you'll see on the slide, there's Twitter, there's Instagram, there's Facebook, and there's the dark web. There's all these different things that 30 years ago when I came into the force didn't even exist. They weren't there. But now we're working, and we're working through all of these things. And I know earlier you had a session on artificial intelligence and technology and how that is changing the world. Well, it's changing our world, too. I mean, I have a group of folks who's working to figure out how we're going to work with autonomous vehicles. Think about that. Vehicles that drive themselves. We didn't have that before. So really, it's part of being holistic is looking to the future, developing the plans, engaging with people on every level that we can. Like I said, when I came on 30 years ago, I would never have thought that we would sit in peacekeeping circles and talk to people about restorative justice practices. But we do that to make people whole. We want to make sure that if you're a business owner and your window is broken, maybe the right level of justice is for the person who perpetrated that to come fix your window. And that's the restorative piece of policing, right? So we're really talking about how we're going to better engage, bring community in, and be more effective in the work that we're doing. It really is about all of us together. And this translates to every society because we all want the same things. There isn't anybody in here, I bet, who doesn't want their children to be, or grandchildren or whatever, to be able to go to school and come home safely. We want our parents, when they live in their neighborhood, to be able to live in their neighborhood, go shopping, come home, and do it safely. We want our employees, and I know Denise Merle is in the room and she hears me on this. We want our employees to be able to go to work and come home and to do so safely. That is not unique to anyone anywhere. Whether you're in Asia, South America, North America, the North Pole or South Pole, or anywhere in between, we all want safety. And we all need to engage and make sure that we are a part of the community and not apart from the community in policing. Our officers are on the front lines every single day of these very universal and complex problems. Opioid abuse, methamphetamine, poverty, homelessness, and all of the tragedy and unpredictability that is in society today. And as a community, as a group, we all need to work together to make sure that we're providing the service that we need to the community that we serve. And as a leader, one of the few women who lead a police organization of a major city, I feel like it's really important, it's really critical that we make that deliberate, as I said earlier, and intentional communication drive to make sure that all of us are creating a future for our young people, for our next generation that is bright and that is safe. This is holistic policing and policing for the future. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Hi, Priscilla.
I told you it was be the best. Carmen, best, the best.
Thank you.
The future of policing.
Thank you. Sure.
Wow. So you've met the future. And one of the things you said is that, for 30 years you've been policing, and you came up through the ranks, through special ops. And that's some of the things that, we as leaders, we often end up working for people, leading people that we were our colleagues. How does that work in your world?
Yeah, well, I think it's really important to have the experience of working in the organization, understanding the ins and outs, some of the good and some of the bad. I always, for any assignment that I had, tried to make sure that I took away the good pieces and emulated and worked on those, and things that didn't work so well, made sure that we didn't repeat that. The experience has been very helpful in facing the challenges that we face today. Although they're really, in many ways, are a new frontier, some of the same issues are still present. So I think it's been very helpful to come through the ranks and to learn along the way. It really helped me to be better prepared, if you will, to take on the organization and to lead the way.
I know one of the things that you're doing is increasing the number of women.
Absolutely.
And it sounds, the whole idea of being collaborative policing and putting this together sounds like a woman's solution.
Doesn't it, though? Yeah. So, of course, we think it's important. I think that one of the earlier speakers said, that when women are in the boardroom and women are at the table, we're just so much better prepared to do the work. Anytime you can bring in as many ideas and thoughts as possible, as many lenses to the conversation. Sometimes you think you have it all, and someone will do or say something that you hadn't even considered. My former boss was a woman, and from outside, but she came into the organization with a fresh set of eyes, and it really helped us to move the organization forward. And we also know that it's important that the police service reflects the community, that people need to be able to see that there's a voice and there's a role for them there. So I often really work hard to make sure that we have women in our ranks. We've improved those numbers significantly, and we'll continue to work on that.
Yeah, that's
great.
great.
Thank you. Yeah.
Perfect. And that really ties into the idea of being holistic, collaborative, holistic, being able to see that. And the complexity that your officers have to deal with. People, in the community, the type of problems, they're not simple problems today.
No.
And I'm wondering, in terms of your approach, how do you pull all this stuff together? How do you get your officers to begin to think of all of those pieces?
Well, a lot of it has to do with training. We start with making sure that your procedures, your policies, your guidelines, whatever you're working under, that they reflect the community, they reflect the thoughts and ideas of the community that you're serving. And then we have to train people on it and make sure everybody understands and knows this is how we're going to operate. And that there's a benefit to them, because as we build trust and legitimacy, and it's a hard hill to climb sometimes, but as we're doing that, people will help us, and it helps us to do our job better. And that brings the buy-in from our personnel, and then we hold people accountable. And that's really on me, the chief's job, and many of you, I'm sure, leaders in your organizations, whether it's private sector or public sector, to make sure that you're holding people accountable to the values, the policies, and training, because all of that only matters. It's not even what the paper is written on if there's no follow-through. So that's the important piece of it, is holding people accountable so that their behaviors reflect the values of the organizations.
And this last question that I have ties right into the accountability issue, because in the U.S., there have been a number of high-profile racial-related killings. And I mean, that's really something that I know you're doing bias training and addressing that. What can you tell us about that issue?
Well, generally I can speak for Seattle, but this is, again, transferable anywhere. We really are deliberate about making sure that we train officers, that we, first of all, that we hire the right people, right? And there is more backgrounding, it's true. There is more backgrounding in policing than there is anywhere. I know for our organization, most across at least the U.S., and I'm sure in Canada too, is that there is more in-depth background training, psychological tests, more than your faith-based people, more than your bus drivers, more than your school teachers. I don't know anybody who goes through more of that rigorous backgrounding to make sure that, one, we're bringing the right people into the organization and having the right hiring practices. And then once we have them here, we make sure that we provide the level of training that we need to. We've done race to power and illusion, perspectives on profiling, lessons learned from the Holocaust, Northwest African American Museum lessons, and also making sure that we are sending them to a whole host of implicit bias training so that we are being as open to and as culturally aware and as sound as we can be. Because we want to be the police agency for everybody. No one should feel left out. And we know we have some real issues, particularly now, I'm talking particularly in the U.S., but certainly there's been a long history of some abuses. And we have to acknowledge that. We have to acknowledge that we weren't always on the right side of history. But that doesn't mean we can't love the job, love the profession, move forward in a collaborative way that helps make sure that we are a real key cornerstone in helping move and advance our society to a better place. And that's where we're moving forward. We acknowledge the past, but we're looking toward the future.
Thank you so much, Carmen. The future of policing.
Thank you for having me here. I appreciate it. Thank you.